fairly concerned about coming here today with the press and, of course, all the distinguished and very learned people here. And now I find my wife is here, so I'll also be graded tonight on how I did. Now, it's an honor for me to be here, and I'd like to thank you for letting me take the time. And I'd like to thank my hosts, of course, but I'd also like to thank all the dignitaries who took time to be here today, and everybody who takes time, because I think this is an extraordinarily important subject. I mean, we've got young people, not just coalition young people, but we've got young Afghans who are out in the field today, and they depend upon the decisions and the analysis we do. So I think taking the time to talk and think about it is always time well spent, so I thank you for that. I think I'm privileged to speak here today, of course, as the commander of NATO's ISAF forces, representing the people from 42 troop contributing nations. I represent them today, and hopefully I will do that well. And of course, as you know, I have a British deputy, Lieutenant General Jim Dutton of the Royal Marines, who's been my deputy now my entire time there, and he's almost finishing his year here, and he'll be replaced by another great British officer, Lieutenant General Nick Parker. Before we go on, I'd like to recognize the enormous sacrifice that families here in the United Kingdom have made. As you know, that the losses we have suffered are significant. Those who have fallen and those who have suffered life-changing injuries, and then those who have also given parts of their life just from being away from family, those are significant. And I am in awe of the performance of the British brothers that I have been for a number of years now honored to work together. Okay, I'm humbled to be here because, as you know, that the kind of people who have been talking here, Prime Minister Gordon Brown, President Zardari, who expressed their views on this complex subject. I don't pretend to be in their category, but I do believe that I can offer some perspectives, and we'll try to do that today. What I'd like to do is, I thought I'd pose 7 questions, and then I'll attempt to answer them. If this works according to my plan, that will totally exhaust your appetite for the issue, and I'll depart this room to wild cheers and lucrative job offers. If my plan fails, as most of my plans do, I'll be happy to field any questions we have time for. Here are the 7 questions. The first is, what is the right approach to use in Afghanistan? The second, what exactly is the environment we're operating in? The third, what's the current situation? The fourth, who's winning? The fifth, it's been 8 years, why isn't it better? The sixth, can we succeed? And the seventh, why bother? Okay, what is the right approach to use in Afghanistan? People ask me that all the time, and then many people offer their suggestion on what they think it is. And there are a multitude of approaches of what to do. Some people say we should focus on development primarily. Others say we should do a counter-terrorist focused fight, because this really started after 9/11 and al-Qaeda's strikes. Other people say we should do counterinsurgency, or COIN for short. And then there's also a paper written, I don't know if you've seen it, that recommends we use a plan called Chaosistan, and that we let Afghanistan become a Somalia-like haven of chaos, and then we just manage it from outside. I arrived in Afghanistan in May of 2002, and I've spent a part of every year since then involved in the effort. I've learned a tremendous amount about it, and I will tell you, every day I realize how little about Afghanistan I actually understand. I discount immediately anyone who simplifies the problem or offers a solution or says, they raise one finger that says, this is what you got to do, because they absolutely have no clue of the complexity of what we're dealing with. In Afghanistan, things are rarely as they seem, and the outcomes of actions we take, however well-intended, are often different from what we expect. If you pull the lever, the outcome is not what you've been programmed to think. For example, digging a well. That sounds pretty simple. How could you do anything wrong digging a well to give people clean water? But yet, where you build that well, who then controls that water, which water it taps into, all have tremendous implications, and they create great passion about it. If you build the well in the wrong place in a village, you may have shifted the basis of power in that village. If you tap into underground water, you have actually given power to the owner of that well, if someone has control of that well, that they didn't have before, because the traditional irrigation system, the Carcrest system, was community owned. If you dig a well and contract it, and you hire one group or one person over another person, you've made a decision that maybe in your ignorance tips the balance of power or perception in that village. So with a completely altruistic effort of building a well, you can create divisiveness, you can give the impression that you from the outside don't understand what's going on, you can give the impression that you have sided with one element or another, and all you tried to do is give water. There's another complexity that people don't understand, and military have got to learn this, and I call it coin or counterinsurgency math. Intelligence will normally tell us how many insurgents are operating in an area. And let's say that there are 10 insurgents in an area, and a military operation's done, and two of those insurgents are killed. Now you figure out how many insurgents do you have left. Traditional math would say you have 8 left. You might not. You might only have 2 left, because 6 of the living 8 might have said, this is getting dangerous, the insurgency business, so I'm going to do something else. So you might be down to 2. You're more likely up to 20, because everyone that you killed has a brother, has a father, has a son, and has friends. And they don't necessarily think that you killed them because they were doing something wrong. It doesn't matter. You killed them. And so suddenly you may have 20. So suddenly the calculus of military operations is very, very different. And yet we're asking young corporals, sergeants, lieutenants to make those kinds of calculations, requiring them to understand the situation. And they have to. There's no simple workaround. But it's that complex. Where you build the well, what military operations you run, who you talk to. Everything you do is part of a complex system with expected outcomes, unexpected outcomes, desired outcomes, undesired outcomes, and then outcomes you never even know about. But they are outcomes. I found in my experience that the best answers and approaches may be counterintuitive, i.e. the opposite of what it seems like you ought to do is what ought to be done. So when I'm asked the question of what approach should we take in Afghanistan, I say humility. Second question, what environment are we operating in? It starts with a couple of generally accepted truths about Afghanistan that we all know to be true. It's a graveyard of empires. Afghanistan has never been ruled by a strong central